Hey, 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 what's up? I have something to say. Let me tell you a little bit about my guest. Ready? Welcome to the show, Delanie. How's it going, Delanie?
I'm
Hi.
doing pretty good this morning. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. You're
Hi, can you hear me
frozen,
today?
but exactly. I am glad to have you on my show. Um, it's frozen a little bit.
Sorry,
How
I'm
you doing?
center. I was hoping I'm doing better. It's a little rainy outside, and I hope it's better than it was at my house.
Well, I don't know, but we're going to try to do our best to get through the show and have you share your amazing story. And quite a
Sounds good.
story it is. I'm really glad to have you on the show. So tell me about your life before your stroke.
Well, before my stroke, I was a teacher. My dad was a teacher. My sister was a teacher. Family of teachers. So I really did a choice. I guess it was in my blood. And
Yeah.
I taught ninth history and for 11 years. I love the students. The kids loved me, but they hated.
Uh-huh.
And
I
but
got it.
I had yeah, it was one of those classes the kids had to take, so they had to be there. They had no choice. But I was married, or I'm still married. I had two little kids, a boy and a girl. We live
Oh,
out in the county. nice and quiet, had a cat, a dog, chickens, pigs, a horse, typical she life, very simple, and life was good. That is correct. And I had recently started working out to Jillian Michaels, and I was really in the best shape of my life. I had lost 75 pounds, bought my first bikini. I was so excited. I was like, because I never worn a bikini in my life. And I this life was good. And I was.
How old were you when you
had it happen? I had stroke before, but I thought that it was the elderly would have to worry about. That was not something I would have to, my 20s or 30s, have to, have in as my vocabulary. It was a more something later on in line. And then in 2000.
Go ahead, Delanie.
I was just going to say, in 2011, that's whenever stroke became all too familiar to me.
That was your sister, right?
Yes, and August, I think it was 10th. I always mixed up, but like I said, see, I'm getting the dates mixed up now. In August of 2011, my sister, who was 29 at the time, went into the hospital for routine surgery. She had a growth neck, and they found out whenever they got inside that the artery had wrapped around growth, and they accidentally tried to snip the carotid off, and that led to a blood clot in the brain. And I'll never forget receiving the phone call. She was in the hospital because she had gone, everything was fine. And then she had to go back to the hospital, and my dad's, your sister's had a stroke. I'm like, this is a joke. No, she hasn't. Because you never think 29 and stroke. But he's like, no, she's had a stroke. And I literally dropped and drove the 2 hours back to where she was. And lo and behold, there she was laying in a bed, couldn't move anything on her left side. And it was just see of such a strong woman. She was kids, not know if she'd ever be able to walk or talk again. I just cannot imagine being where she was.
Yes. I'm sure it was quite a shock for you.
Yes, it was quite a shock to me, because like I said, this is something that I thought that we'd have to deal with maybe with my parents, along the line, but not my parents have to deal with their kids. You don't really think about, it happening like that. And so she stayed in the hospital for a while, went to rehab, where of course she had to relearn to walk, and I was just amazed at strength. And her family was involved. Somebody was there with her all the time. And
Delanie, did she have aphasia?
yes, she did at first, and her tone changed after her stroke. Her tone is extremely even. It'll be in August. It's monotone. It's like she doesn't sound excited. She doesn't sad. She doesn't have different pitches when she talks. It's all like one tone, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And on his show the other day that whenever my sister and I get together, we have call it stroke, I guess strokies. She and I each other and make sense to other people, sense to each other. Like the whole word.
I got that.
Or the whole idea. But we say to, get what we're saying, what we're trying to say out. She gets it and I get it, and everybody else is like, what in the heck are you talking about? And we're like, we're straight, we're cool, we get the conversation. It's neat. Go ahead.
Take me 11 months later, and your sister has had a stroke. And what happened?
Well, our family had, it was hard. We had to my new sister, basically. Refer to it, it's like somebody dying. She didn't die. The old person was gone, and a new person was in her place, better or worse, just new. And
Good.
her personality changed, and our family took a lot of adjustment to this new person. And the last thing in the back of my mind was, this something would happen to me. And so I remember June, I pause that for a second. Prior yesterday, I had the worst headache, but it wasn't like a headache as normally as you have. It was right here at the base of where I learn where the brainstem is. Yes. And at the end of the day, my neck would just get so stiff. And I'd be like in tears. I couldn't turn my head to the right. And my husband would have to massage it. I couldn't figure out what was going on. And this lasted for like a week.
Delanie, I had the same thing coming back. Go ahead. It's okay. And just go ahead.
I told my husband on a Monday that if it didn't get better in a few days, I was going to go to the doctor and see what was going on. Well, Monday, I had a stroke on Wednesday. I went to work, had a regular day, picked my kids up from daycare. They were 5 and 3. I think 5 and 4, 6 and 4, somewhere around there. I'm sorry, I get
That's okay.
And I come home decided to let them play in the yard while I cleaned out my van. And I was actually in the driver's seat. And interesting note, I had put my cell phone, of all things, in my passenger seat. I don't know why I did, but I'm glad that I did.
Yeah.
I started cleaning to feel nauseous. Didn't really think much of it, and then the tingling and numbness started on my left side. And then slowly it got worse and worse and worse. And then I just started, the nauseous feeling kept getting worse. I was sweating, my shirt was soaked. I was just hunched over my steering wheel, and I couldn't move my left side. I was like, all right, something serious is going on. So thankfully, I could move my right side, reached over, got my cell phone. I called my husband on his way home from work and said, Curtis, there is something wrong. Get your butt home. And he worked and usually makes stops on the way home. That day, he decided not to. And if he had, I would have been sitting there either. So he hightailed it home, looked at me, thought that I was having a heart attack. He had no idea. And so he kids in the car, and the nearest hospital like 45 minutes away. So if we had called an ambulance, it would have taken over to get there. So he went like up the interstate and took me to the hospital. When we were, they brought her out, and you know when you tell yourself to stand, just do it. I told myself, you know, my legs, let's stand up, and I couldn't move at that point. I couldn't say anything. I had lost all ability. So they ran in and got a gurney and put me on the gurney. And I'll never forget being rolled away, and the last image I saw were my kids.
Yep.
I couldn't even yell, I love you, you know, couldn't give them a hug. And just the thought of, is this the last scene? This image of their mother they're going to see. And that broke me. But I couldn't even, and all of a sudden, for some reason, my sister came in my head. I thought, oh my, I'm having a stroke just like she did. And I tried to yell out the word stroke, and it sounded like some type of caveman talk whenever I tried yelling. It was just weird. I don't know what in the world it was, but
hey, Delanie.
They rolled.
Delanie.
Yes.
Can you see the picture on the screen?
Yes.
Is that your kids?
Those are my kids.
Aw.
Yes, that is Kate. She, like I said, she had just got out of kindergarten, so she was 6. And that's Alex. He like sleep anywhere, so being in a hospital bed didn't faze him. He took a nap. And he was the one that was sleeping. He had his 5th birthday in the hospital. We were able to get one of those conference rooms and have his birthday in the hospital, but being able to have them there, have my husband there, have actually took part of my therapy. I got to that point. they were my saving grace. I've always said I am so glad I didn't have my stroke during. I pray. I mean, these poor people in the hospital themselves that can't physically see, touch, their families. I just feel for them so much.
Me too.
This
Me.
picture was me actually 2 days before the stroke. This was when I was experiencing those headaches.
Wow. Can you tell me? Can you tell me what that first 3 months was like?
I remember ICU was for a couple weeks. I was locked in for about 6, and for those that may not know what locked in means is I could only move my eyes, like blinking. That was it. I couldn't move my arms, couldn't legs. I couldn't. Somebody said it's a long. Y'all hear me now?
Well, just keep talking. I think it's going to be okay.
Okay, but I was locked in for about 6 weeks. And was actually on or away ventilator tube, and that was awful, just awful. I was eventually went to subacute therapy, and that was there for about 6 weeks, and that was where I had to walk and talk and eventually learn to again. I had to learn to swallow properly. I know there was a proper way to swallow. And the first thing they gave me to eat was applesauce. And I got so sick of applesauce.
I do too.
I will not eat it to this day. I didn't touch it. And the most I remember there were therapists and nurses, my kids, my husband. They stood me in these standers, which actually helped up. And they brought a mirror in. I could see myself. And I never felt more beautiful in my life. I mean, I looked a mess actually, but everybody was cheering me on and clapping. It was just a very mad moment. And I quickly learned that nurses, they were not just there to help me physically, they helped me emotionally as well.
Yes.
And I think that played a big role in my recovery. Had they not been my friend and not just seen me as number 2, 3, or whatever, then my outcome could have been very different.
What was your
I was actually in a wedding, nurses. I was a bridesmaid a couple years ago.
Really? That's amazing.
Yeah.
What was your aha moment when, for the first 3 months, when you realized I can get better?
I'll tell you, I actually had my very, very early on.
Mm-hmm.
It was really because of my sister. Because I had seen her come from basically a limp rag doll to she lost the use of her left arm and she still can't use. But I had seen how far she had come, walking, talking, uh, raising two boys, being a wife. She had gone back to work. And can do it. I can too. And for me, it became a question of not if, but when.
Yes.
So I was honest. She would come into my room when I was in the ICU. And she would sometimes not even say anything. It would just be the two of us. She would just sit there with me.
Mm.
And we just together. And just her strength and her presence. I mean, just seeing her sitting there drinking, to the average person, that's no big deal. But for me, I mean, it's like, if she can do that, I can do that too. So
You know
she was
what's
actually
amazing? You know what's amazing to me is the importance of family support is so important. And you had the support of your family, didn't you?
I had amazing support of my mom and dad, my I had somebody stay with you in subacute rehab, in inpatient rehab, every
Wow.
single at the subacute hospital. They told my mom whenever I still couldn't talk, I still couldn't move. They told her, "Well, I'm sorry, ma'am, you can't stay." My mom's like, "Over my dead body," and I chat with one of the administrators, and they quickly brought her in. They didn't. They didn't want to mess with my mom. That people were there for my therapy sessions. That made a world of difference.
Yes. You know, I believe it's. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, even my kids, I remember when I was like singing. I know singing is a big part of speech therapy sometimes. Yes. And I was singing Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, and they happened to come in to visit me at that time. The whole family, my husband, who is not a singer at all, they all joined in singing me that song and the speech whenever they all sang with me. And because I was, and I was just singing with my family.
You know, when I can still remember when I had my stroke, I was really, I could only say one word, one. And when I was being transported by my assistant to Shalimar, I was singing nonstop with the radio, and she said, "Paul, you can sing." And I said, "One, one, 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 one." But I could sing, but I couldn't say anything. It was amazing.
Well, I remember my speech therapist saying that there were some survivors that they could sing, like you said, sing, like, but then you asked them to say a sentence or word, and they couldn't do it. So she
Me
had
too.
me start like singing something as simple as like the ABCs, and then your brain kind of, I guess, remembers those things that you used to sing over and over.
So tell me about how you decided to write a book.
Well, along with my dad, who passed in 2018, was an English professor. 1981, I believe. And I remember in fourth grade, I was doing a research, a report on Washington. We do over and over because all these little mistakes.
I got it.
Making sure that it's.
Hey, Delanie, it's breaking up right now. Really bad.
Page. Oh, come on now. So
Go
even
ahead,
at a young age, he was making sure back. So
just breaking up. Okay.
Okay, sorry. So even at a young age, he was making sure that I knew how to properly use the English language. And I grew to love to write. I wound up my professor, and I went to school where he's at. And he was actually my professor for some of my classes. And I just loved writing. And I'm from a young age, I knew that one day I wanted to work, but I didn't write it. I had no clue. I thought I wanted to write something about. They always tell you to write what you know, but I was like, I don't really know anything that interesting. And then whenever I was in hospital one day, it just kind of hit me because I had a lot of funny stories. I mean, a lot of funny stories. And I was like, this is too good to keep to myself. I need to write this stuff down. So I was like, bam, I've got a book. So that pretty much I got out of the hospital and was done with inpatient and outpatient. That's what I started writing, and I wrote until I was done. Took about 6 months to get it written down, and it's called The Calm Before the Storm, a stroke survivor's story. It will make you laugh. Yes, it is available on Amazon.
Good. I'll post it
And
right
I've got
after we finish.
or shower stories. I've got bath stories. I've got what do they call things? I have to use the bathroom and this little Jerry, help me out. Those little talking about, where you I am drawing such a blank.
Well, it's okay. I draw blanks all the time.
Golly gee.
I don't. Let me
I
see.
know.
Jerry.
Yeah, Jerry, I know.
What about the church story?
Whenever you are in the hospital for a long period of time, and well, thanks, Jerry, for putting me on the spot. After stroke, I don't have as many physical deficits as I do emotional, and that's something I think that is not talked about enough whenever you leave the hospital is the emotional aspect of stroke. But I was diagnosed with something called PBA or pseudo bulbar effect. And that's where you have extremes of laughing and crying. Some people call it emotional liability. And
Yes.
I laugh and cry at inappropriate times. And people think that it's, well, you're laughing isn't it a good thing? Well, yes and no. Though keeps me from going to certain social situations. And what Jerry was mentioning, it's one reason why I don't go to church. I would like to go, but my family has a small church, and one time, and I don't know where my son gave me a to make me laugh. He made me start laughing, and well, small church and a small group of people, and you can't really hide the fact that. So I was like laughing loudly to the point whenever the point where I was crying, and it was like uncontrollable. And whenever it's just awful. And I was crying, and the preacher came up to me after the church service, and he thought I was like filled with the Spirit, crying. I didn't tell him, what the real deal was. I didn't want to burst it, but
that's funny.
Look, at the time I was so embarrassed and got the heck out of there and got my car. PVA and funeral last year because my sister was actually knows my issue. Out like comment, and I started laughing. I had to go sit outside for like an hour because I didn't want to be laughing at somebody's funeral. I didn't feel right doing that.
I got it. Tell me about your daughter writing a book.
Well, actually, I was one that wrote the book,
okay.
But I wrote it from my daughter's perspective. It's a children's called Mom Had a Stroke, and my kids actually saw me having the stroke in the car, going to the hospital, me yelling, "I'm gonna die. I feel like I'm dying."
Yes.
And it caused a lot of, I guess you could say, PTSD for my son was saying what was going on. For her, she's a very sensitive, hurt, things of that nature. But it talks about how she saw the through her eyes. And after mommy came home after the stroke, mommy was different. She didn't act the same. Mommy couldn't do some of the things that she used to do before the stroke, but through it all, and mommy still loves me.
That's amazing. Let me have a moment, Delanie. You know, when I had my stroke and my kids didn't know what to do, I had always been this figure that was like the guy they came to, and all of a sudden I couldn't talk. All of a sudden I wasn't able to respond. All of a sudden I wasn't able to be that hero that I had always been for my kids. The roles had to reverse, and it was hard. It was hard. And you know, when I'm sure your kids were wondering what's going to happen to my mom, and I'm sure they were filled with anxiety because it's hard, especially little kids. So I'm just, I want to tell you how proud I am of you. You have an amazing story. I just sit there and listen and say, wow, what kind of remarkable person does all that? You have influenced so many people with your story. And I just wanted to say that to you. And it's really important. And Jerry posted the Amazon link. I was going to do that after the show because I want to focus on you. But thanks, Jerry. I appreciate it. So, what you know, Jerry's a piece of work. I love him. He's just so good. He posted another one. Oh, there's the second one. Hey, Jerry, just join us. Anyway, how about did you suffer any depression at all?
That is something that, yes, I did. And again, even after stroke, they fire. And that is something I was not prepared that after stroke, they prepare you if you fall down, but they don't prepare if you fall emotionally. If I fell down on the floor, I knew how to get back up.
Exactly.
But the roller coaster that I went on, what I thought was, and I've got a whole chapter in the book about that, what I thought that life was going to be like whenever I got home is the reality. What it was like when I got home was two totally, I guess, polar opposites. Not that it was, anything, but strokes don't just affect the person who had a stroke. It affected my husband. He's got, work and then all that to focus on. The kids have a new mom to adjust to.
Yes.
My parents have had two daughters I mean, imagine when they were, my dad and I did a whole video on that. 2 daughters, 2 strokes, father's perspective, what it was like for parents to have 2 strokes. So yes, anxiety, and it's almost 9 years later for me, be 9 years in June, and I'm old. And I've been through so many counselors, psychiatrists. So I mean, I've been talking about I'm bipolar, that I, once the whole thing, but they don't really get it. It's hard to find somebody who really understands just stroke through a stroke. Like, I guess a stroke specialist.
Yep.
Because they don't totally get it.
One thing I can be grateful for, when I went through my depression and anxiety, I found a great therapist that helped me so much. And he was really good. And he talked me off many ledges. I was just beside myself. And he just was a godsend for me. And I thank the good Lord I found him, because he was, I was depressed. I was.
Yeah, a couple things I have found on health, is, of course, myself with reaching out to like you guys, to other strokers. Y'all get it. And explain till you're red in the face to some people.
Yep.
They don't really understand, because of course, if you haven't been through something, you're not totally going to get it. And another thing is to find that outlet that helps you. And that's for me. Exactly. I love to share my story, and that helps me to get out that frustration, that anxiety, that it helps. And it may not be for other people, but you have to find your thing that'll help you get through those tough times.
I paint.
Whatever that may be.
I paint, and I love to paint. It gets me away from this storm, and I just love to paint and express myself creatively. By the way, Lynn said, I read the first book, The Calm Before the Storm. Very, very good. So hats off to you.
Thank you, Lynn.
And hello, everyone. I have to take care of myself as well. I would keep to get with anyone to keep my day on the right lane. We all have to find a way to keep ourselves on track. And Janice said, stroke affects all the family. John came home with a book that was my training for coping with him. So I really appreciate your sharing and being so forthright. What do you want to say to the audience before we go? We have about 10 minutes. Tell me about anything that you want to tell that would help anybody else with a stroke or caregivers. Just, you have the floor.
One thing is that all strokes are different. I can just use my sister and I as an example. She had a hemorrhagic stroke. I had an ice stroke. Young, yes, we were both in great shape, but she lost the use of her left arm. And so she's got more physical stuff she has to deal with, but emotionally, she's mostly intact. I, on the other hand, physically, I'm mostly okay. Emotionally, I'm a mess. So, I mean, you got to consider, the shape you're in, your age, there's so many factors. And compare your stroke journey with somebody else's. Some people, they have a stroke and they're back at home, back to normal life. Them, and then there's some people who, 10 years later are in a wheelchair and assisted living. There are so many variables, and the fact is if you have a stroke and you're above ground, you've got to focus on that aspect. But everybody's journey is what they call it is a sprint, not a marathon. I'm probably using that phrase wrong. You got to forgive me.
Yes, no.
But you've got to.
A marathon, not a sprint.
Okay, see, I told you I get those
okay. I do it all the time.
The baby steps. 10, 20 years going by and people not being able to walk, then all of a sudden, it comes back. But don't compare yourself to. I mean, we shouldn't do it in regular life anyway. But we're all in different situations. People have support. Some people don't. Some people have better health, just the way that life is. But I mean, you're here. There's a purpose, and just live your journey. Don't be, don't try to live somebody else's, because you're not gonna. You're not gonna get there.
Somebody told me that if you meet one person with aphasia, you met one person with aphasia. All things are different with aphasia.
Right.
And my journey with aphasia was different than other people's journey with aphasia. And, the comparative theory is not good to do. You can't compare anybody else to your journey. And you don't know what they went through. You don't know how much family support they got. You don't know how many speech lessons they got, how many occupational therapy lessons they got. I have a friend that had a stroke 4 months ago, and they still haven't had their first speech lesson today. Everybody's a little bit.
COVID.
I know.
Exactly. And the other I was going to say was, I mentioned this a little bit on Jerry's show last week. Be as open and for those of you that have caregivers out there, be as open as you can. Well, even if you're a caregiver, friends, family, those that you come in contact, if you're having a hard time with something, let them know. if you're angry, upset the way something's going, let them, people, either a caregiver or a stroke survivor, everybody's, trying their best in most cases. And unless we tell each other, how we're feeling, or, we'd like them like that, or whatever, we're frustrated because you're doing this or that, you got to let them know, and give caregivers, cut them some.
Yes.
I know a lot of times I get frustrated with my husband. Why are you always on me? Why are you always, watching what I do?
Not really, Delanie.
Why do you? Why won't you let me go there, whatever? And he's, but he doesn't want me to. We've had a lot of broken bones in hospital and all that. He's watching out for on his plate too. Just remember,
Yes.
And the stroke is, years after this thing, and the stroke will, rears its ugly head daily, unfortunately, in one way or the other. So just, just with people.
Exactly. Anything else? I am amazed at how strong you are. You are just phenomenal. Where did you get that strength, that grit?
I don't know. Like I said, whenever I saw my sister, I see you, unable to move, unable to talk, I was thinking, I am so glad I don't think I could ever go through what she's going through. So God said, oh yeah, let me show you. And you don't know how strong you are until you need to be, if that makes sense. We've all got. It's just
we do.
You
Hey,
you just show up when you have a life altering experiences. You got two choices. You can either, give in, or,
get up.
or work. That's
Give in.
give in, get up.
So, Delanie,
Exactly.
it's come to the end of our hour, and I am so blessed. It went by very fast. You are one of my favorite people I've ever interviewed. Just made me smile. I admire your courage, what you did with your family. I am really touched by you being on the show, and you have a good way, a good story. And I just wanted to thank you. So I really appreciate you. You want
Thank you.
anything
Thank you so much for having
me? You can have the last word.
Everybody, just take it one step at a time, y'all. But if I look too far in the future,
yep,
I just don't. Just be you, do you. Don't one thing at
exactly.
a time.
Just do you. I like that. Just do you. So we'll leave it at that. Advice from Delanie Stephenson. Just do you. And hope is on the way. I appreciate all you have done and all you will continue to do in the future. God bless you. And let's wave and say goodbye to everybody. Bye for now.
Yeah, everyone. Have a good day.
Have a good day.